Okay, so we are live, and I've got something special for you today. This is a Masters of the Universe Origins Roton Evil Assault Vehicle. We can see a nice piece of artwork with Skeletor riding in Roton on the top, and some desert background all around him, like a rocky terrain. Got like a dead tree there. There's looks like the Snake Tower from Eternia, which they're actually making. That's insane. I believe it's being crowdfunded. There is He-Man riding on the Road Ripper. Got Screech over on this side. Got another picture on the back here with Skeletor flying Roton through the air. And what's that we see in the background? Oh, that's Point Dread with the Talon Fighter on it. So guess what you're going to have to look forward to see upcoming very soon. Oh yeah, they're making a Talon Fighter, so that's pretty sweet. Well, they've already made a Talon Fighter. It's already been out in the stores. How about that? So this is one I've been sitting on this one for a while. They actually had it marked down at Walmart to $13. So, but I'm just now finally getting around to opening it up. Before we get any further in this video, I want to give a shout out to my cousin, Amy, of Amy's Rock and Pop Shop. And she had her birthday today. So I'm not going to say how old she is. But she is my older cousin, although you wouldn't think it to look at her. She looks younger than me now because I got all the gray in my beard, and she still looks nice and youthful and everything. But I look older than her now. So, but yeah, today is her birthday. As I'm recording it, it's August 5th, and I'll probably I'll hopefully remember to give her a call sometime later this evening and wish her a happy birthday over the phone. She lives out in California now, so I don't get to see her all that much. But it's okay. It's okay. She's living her best life. So yeah, Roton has a special place in my heart because for those of you who don't know, Roton was the very first vehicle for the Evil Warriors in the original Masters of the Universe line, and it's still my personal favorite vehicle for the Evil Warriors. It's simple and effective, and I like it an awful lot. And there had been some great vehicles that came after, like the Land Shark and Spydor. Hopefully, they make a Spydor for Origins. I think that would be really cool. But Roton kind of to me worked as like the basic Evil Warriors vehicle. Like it was kind of like the same way I look at the Battle Ram for the good guys. I look at Roton for the bad guys, where like this is kind of like their utility vehicle. This is the thing that, like, if you're gonna put just any character into a vehicle, Roton's a good one to do it with. I believe that the Mega Constructs version of Roton came with Merman, which not really a character that I ever had riding in Roton, but it still works. I definitely think of Skeletor for the most part being in Roton. Just like for the most part, I think about He-Man with the Battle Ram, but you could put Man-at-Arms on it, or Tila, or Stratos, whoever you want to put on the Battle Ram, you could. And likewise, anybody could ride around in Roton that you want. But we're going to use Skeletor today, and in fact, to be specific, we will be using the 2000X Skeletor because I just happen to have him handy. He just happens to be the one I have sitting in my living room right now, so that's the one we're going to use. And yeah, like in the first wave of Masters Universe figures, the first couple of waves, all of the vehicles were for the Heroic Warriors. You had, in the first wave, you had the Battle Ram, and you had the Wind Raider. And if you want to count Battle Cat as being a vehicle, he was definitely a mode of transportation, although he's more of a beast of burden than anything else. But still, all three of those were bespoke for the good guys. And if you look at the artwork for the Battle Cat box, you see several different battle cats being ridden by several different characters, both good and evil. Like Beastman is riding on a battle cat in the background for crying out loud. But that was early days in the line, and I don't know if they'd even really figured out what Battle Cat was supposed to be yet. And the artist certainly didn't know, because they didn't really tell him anything. They just gave him pictures of the toys and said, "Here, paint these and make them look cool." And that's why if you look at the Castle Grayskull box, he painted it as if it was Skeletor's headquarters, which made sense in his mind. Guy with a skull face, castle with a skull face, makes sense, right? So yeah, weren't any? I believe the second wave you had what do you call it? The attack track, and you had Point Dread and the Talon Fighter, which if you read the mini comics, like Point Dread and the Talon Fighter were almost supposed to be kind of like the way Castle Grayskull was done in the early days, where it wasn't necessarily like a good guy or a bad guy place. It was a place for them to fight over. And in the book and record set that came with Point Dread and the Talon Fighter, He-Man was flying the Talon Fighter. And if you read the mini comics that came out around that time that had Point Dread in there, it was usually Skeletor flying the Talon Fighter. In fact, the one that was intended to promote the Talon Fighter in the mini comics, Skeletor steals the Talon Fighter and has a dogfight with He-Man, who's flying the Wind Raider. But Mark Taylor, when he was designing the line, he didn't really bother to come up with any vehicles for the Evil Warriors. And I don't think it was really him. Like it was definitely based on his aesthetic, and he probably oversaw it somewhat. But there was another designer at Mattel whose name escapes me at the moment who did the vehicles. He was more into like the technical stuff. But he would have designed the Battle Ram and the Wind Raider and the unmade Battle Chariot, which kind of, I think, evolved into the Battle Ram. I suspect it did, but you can see that in some of the early mini comics too. Man-at-Arms rides it in He-Man and the Power Sword, for example. But yeah, Mark Taylor didn't really feel like the villains really needed vehicles, because Skeletor is a magical guy with magical powers. He just if they needed to go somewhere, he just open up a portal to somewhere for them to go, and so they didn't really have any vehicles. But who did need for the Evil Warriors to have some vehicles? Mattel, because they were raking in the dough on this line, and they needed to have as many toys as possible. So of course the bad guys need to have vehicles. And frankly, us kids playing with the toys, we wanted the bad guys to have vehicles. So a lot of times I'd have the bad guys steal the good guys' vehicles, again, like in that Talon Fighter comic I was talking about, just so they'd have something to ride around in. Usually Skeletor, though, would steal the Wind Raider, because I like the Talon Fighter better, so I left that one for the good guys. So, and of course, I had more than one Battle Ram. I was blessed in that regard, so I could use one for the good guys or one for the bad guys, or use both of them for good guys or both of them for bad guys, however I wanted to do it. But Roton was definitely, as it says on the package, an evil assault vehicle. There's no mistaking this for a good guy vehicle. It's all black and red, and it's got bloodshot eyes and fangs, and it's a big freaking buzzsaw. So that doesn't scream bad guy vehicle. I don't know what does. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open it up. And as soon as I do, a big bag of stuff falls out from underneath this tray, which I probably should have known was going to happen, but they didn't tape it in. And it looks like all that's in that bag is the canopy, the optional canopy. We'll get to that in a minute. And the other things that we have in here is we have Roton itself, and we have a face mask to put on the front of Roton, and we have 2 cannons. So let's go ahead and open him up, and he's got these little funky things at the bottom here. We kind of twist them, and they pop off. And I like these things because it's a good way to hold the vehicle in the package, and I don't have to worry about rubber bands getting caught in all the wheels and everything. They use these a lot on Imaginext. So if you buy any Imaginext vehicles, you would recognize them. So here we have Roton out of the package. And one difference that I noticed immediately with this version of Roton, as opposed to the one that I had when I was a kid, is he's very glossy. Like the original Roton was much more like a semi-gloss, almost matte kind of plastic. It did have a little bit of a sheen to it, but this thing is shiny. It looks like he just got it out of the car wash and it's still dripping wet. So another difference that I noticed with the original Roton is I don't believe the original Roton had grips like this. I think you were just supposed to imagine he'd work the consoles somehow. And these are a separate piece of plastic from the body, so they're a much more flexible piece of plastic, as you can see, which is good because I would imagine if it was made out of the same rigid styrene, I believe this is, the rest of the vehicle is made out of, they would surely break off. It would be way too delicate of a part. So you'll notice if you roll the wheels, the buzzsaw will turn, just like with the original Roton. This one's more freewheeling. It's the two on the back that are on axle that turns it. So yeah, you can roll them along on the ground, and the buzzsaw will turn, and he can attack He-Man in that way. So that's pretty cool. So we can take Skeletor, and we'll get him into a sitting position, which he does have this long loincloth since it's 2000X version. So that might hinder it a little slightly, but I think we can still get him into a decent enough seated position. And then we can go ahead and we can actually have him grip the grips, since there are grips. And now our boy Skeletor is ready to cause some havoc in his new vehicle. But not the optimal amount of havoc, because you notice something is missing, and that is the twin cannons that Roton comes with. And those are rubber banded into the package. But I should be able to get them out fairly easily. Hopefully not too warped from the experience. So there we go. And one thing that I noticed is different about these is the older ones had they kind of plugged into the vehicle in such a way where they were not removable. But you can see this is more of a straight peg. And I have a theory about that. Let me get one more thing, because I happen to have 2000X He-Man in the living room with me. And something I was curious about with these is, oh yes, indeed, the figures can actually hold the Roton cannons in their hand like it was a rifle. So that's pretty cool. That's a nice little extra bonus feature that comes with these figures. So let's pretend for a second that we'll go ahead and put them into the vehicle. So Skeletor is attacking He-Man and Roton, and He-Man, using his very impressive superhuman strength, punches the thing in such a way, knocks it over. One of these guns goes flying. He-Man picks up the gun and uses it against Skeletor. Take that. So that's pretty cool. Or, if the vehicle were wrecked, Skeletor could grab one of these off of his own vehicle and start blasting at He-Man for wrecking his ride. He, not being happy with that. You don't mess with another man's vehicle. You just don't. It's not done. So, but yeah, that's pretty cool. So, if you were a kid and you had Roton in the 1980s, this is pretty much what you would have, right? I mean, it's a little different in some ways, but, most of the changes are improvements, I think. I like that it has little grips that the figure can hold on to, and I like that the laser cannons are removable and can be used as a laser rifle by the figure. That's pretty neat. Let's see, where did I put the box? Okay, yeah. It did not mention it does not mention. It says remove blasters for surprise attacks, but it doesn't mention that the figures can hold the blasters. I guess they figure the kids can just figure that out on their own. But yeah, this is pretty much the Roton that you would have had, if you bought it off a toy store shelf in 1984. So yeah, pretty cool. But Mattel did not stop there, and they gave us some other cool bonus features, which I'm going to show off right now. And one is this mask that's going to clip to the front. And I believe this was based off of like early production art for Roton. So this red mask, you notice if you look closely at Roton's teeth on the vehicle, there's a couple little holes there, a couple little pegs on the mask. So we'll just plug that into the front. So that can give you a different look for Roton. If I can get the pegs to line up properly. There we go. Now, unfortunately, since it is just held on with little pegs, I don't know how well that's going to hold on with some rough play. I figure that would be the sort of thing where it might fall out. I don't know. But it does seem like it's in there pretty snugly. But it's a hard plastic mask on a hard plastic vehicle. So I don't know how well that's going to hold up, especially if you're taking it off and on and several times. It might get worn down, so that might be something else to worry about. And then this that we have is a pretty neat feature, which is something the original Roton vehicle did not have, is a canopy for the figures. Now, while the original Roton did not have a canopy, there was a model kit made of Roton, and it did come with a canopy. So as a bonus feature, they've provided the canopy from the model kit to go on to the Origins Roton figure. So let's go ahead and put that on there, see how that looks. And I think it's kind of interfering with the sword a little bit, because I still had a sword stuck in his back. So we'll take that out for the knots, and then that should fit on there a little better, I think. And there's 2 pegs in the front and 2 pegs in the back. So we want to make sure that all that stuff is lined up good and proper. And I think that it's a little long, and it might just be that mine got kind of warped in the package, so you might kind of have to pinch it in a little bit. But yeah, so there's what he looks like with the canopy over the figure. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the canopy on Roton, but the great thing about it is just, a removable piece that's completely optional. And you see that the mask did fall off the front there. So, while I was futzing around with the canopy. But you can get lots of different looks out of it. You could have them with the canopy, or just with the mask, or you could have it with both. And I might wind up buying another one of these so I can display it in this way, and have the other one displayed more like the vintage toy. Since, like I said, these were marked down at my Walmart. If they still have any more from when I bought this, I might go ahead and buy another one, because that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure the reason they put the canopy onto the model kit was to, since the model kits didn't come with figures, that way they could just have the vehicle sitting by itself and it would look fine. But from what I understand, those model kits were large enough that you could actually fit the characters into them. But I never actually had any. My mom wouldn't buy them for me because she said I already had the vehicles from the toys, and those are model kits. They aren't made to be played with. I think they actually were made to be played with, but she just didn't want to buy me like the same toy again, which is practically what she would have been doing, to be quite honest. So I don't blame her. I don't blame her. But I think that was probably the main motivation. Is I already bought him that stuff. I don't want to have to buy it again, and then I'm gonna be the one having to put it together because he don't build model kits. He's like 5. Just play with the one you already have. It's fine. I don't care if it doesn't have a canopy. So yeah, Roton was the first vehicle for the Evil Warriors in the Vintage line, but it was not the first vehicle in the Origins line because, of course, we had the Land Shark, which came out a couple of years back now, I think. Man, this line's been going on that long. Wow, it's pretty amazing to think of. Yeah, because I think I bought the first He-Man and Skeletor back in 2020, right? That was still pandemic times. So yeah, it was. It's been a crazy couple of years, hasn't it? But yeah, so they made the Land Shark first, and I have my suspicions that the reason that they made the Land Shark first is because they were already planning it for the Masters of the Universe Classics line, which is why it's a bit larger than the original Land Shark was, and you can actually fit Classics figures into the Land Shark. But I do think that they actually did put out a Roton for Classics. They actually did manage to get one of those out. But I don't think Classics figures will fit into Roton. I think it's probably a little too small for that. You can see that he's got just enough legs. He's got just enough leg room. That's what I meant to say. But just for the sake of being thorough, I happen to have one other Skeletor figure with me. And it is not a classic Skeletor, but it's the next best thing, because it's the Masterverse New Eternia Skeletor. He's about the same size. So if he can fit in there, I would say Classics one can fit in here. If anybody's curious about that, we're going to go ahead and put that to the test. But like I said, I'm not too optimistic that that old boy's going to fit in there. He's got much longer legs than the Origin Skeletor. But just to see how well it looks, it's actually not too bad. Like his butt is not resting on the seat because, like I said, them legs is long, a lot longer than the Origin's legs. Maybe if we took advantage of the double jointed knees and folded them up just a little bit more. Although his hip articulation only goes up so far. Partially because of the skirt, but you're only really going to get a 90-degree angle at best on the hip articulation anyway. So if you really wanted to, I think you can technically fit a Classics or a Masterverse figure into Roton. But it's not an ideal fit. There's still quite a bit of space between his butt and the seat because his legs are just too darn long. And if you can't fit him in here with the double jointed knees, you're probably not going to be able to fit a Classics figure in there either, I'm assuming. So that's a negatory on that, good buddy. You ain't gonna be fitting him in there like that. So yeah, there's that. But like I said, wasn't really made for that. It was made for Origins figures. And Origin Skeletor fits in here just fine. And I would assume, since, they do have less articulation, but the knees are already kind of crunched up on the vintage figures, you could probably fit a vintage Masters of the Universe figure in here just fine. It does seem to me, and I don't have the original to compare, unfortunately. My original Roton is lost to time. But it does seem to me like it is the same proportions. It feels authentic to me in my hands as I examine it with the 2000X Skeletor in there. I do think he looks pretty great riding it. Now, if you're a little more old school, you might prefer to put, one of the more vintage versions of Skeletor in there, like the one with the vintage head, or my personal favorite Skeletor, which is Battle Armor Skeletor. I think he would look fantastic in this. I now kind of regret that I didn't take the time to go and get him out of out of my room and put him into this vehicle, because I think he would have looked pretty sweet riding around in Roton. That was usually how I did it, because like I said, Battle Armor Skeletor was always my favorite Skeletor. And the 2000X one though, he's still rocking it in there. So I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And if you were happy with this video and enjoyed watching it, please make sure to like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment and let me know what you think about Roton, both the original one and the new one. Were you lucky enough to get a Classics Roton? I never was able to get myself one, and I really wanted one, but at least now I have one for Origins, and that's pretty sweet. So I'm pretty happy about that. I really like a lot of these extra accessories, so we can customize Roton. I love extra display options, so that's always fun. And I'm sorely tempted, since, like I said, I got this one on clearance. If I can find another one of these on clearance, I will buy a second one, and I will display them in both with the canopy and without. Probably the canopy one, I'll wind up putting the mask back onto the figure, or back onto the vehicle. I almost think about Roton as being like a sentient vehicle, like that has maybe like some artificial intelligence to it. Probably because it has a face, like an actual legit face with eyeballs and everything like that. Not like how they have like a griffin head sculpted onto the front of the battle ram. I mean, like, this is a face. And actually the mask that you put on the front looks even more like a face, because it's got the teeth painted in and everything. So yeah, like Roton, I always think about as being like a character unto himself. That's why I keep referring to him as a him as opposed to an it. But yeah, got a little piece of my childhood back today, so that makes me happy. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.